And I'll let you know, I have a bit of a PowerPoint slide, but I'm not going to stick with it a whole lot because I think most of you guys have been in the system and know the basics. But what I did think that I would go over some of the things that have come up, from questions that we get on the help desk line, and just things that I don't think that a lot of people don't remember from the original training. And if you do have a question, just put it in the question area, and they will let me know, and I'll address your questions then. So going forward, one of the things that has changed in the last year is the software that the browser that you run GEMS on. We can use any browser except Internet Explorer. So if you're using Internet Explorer and you want to use a Microsoft product, you'll have to switch to Edge. Microsoft no longer supports Internet Explorer, so a lot of the things that are in the system don't work properly if you're using that. So just keep in mind that if you're using Internet Explorer, you're going to have to either switch to Chrome or Edge or one of the other ones. Another question that I get from people from time to time is changing email addresses or changing names. And this is something, if you didn't know it, that you can do yourself. If you click on your name at the bottom once you're logged in, and at the bottom of the main menu, you can go in and change this is actually this is from North Carolina, so you ignore this part here. I should have changed the slide thing here. But you can change your email address, your first or last name, you can update your telephone number, and then you can also change your password there. But that's something that you yourself can do. And again, if especially like if you move from one district to another and you need to update your email address and your telephone number, you can do that yourself. Of course, your roles, if you move to a new district, will have to be uploaded by the user access administrator. I wanted to go over some of I don't think that, we've ever, in our initial training, we really go through the navigation menu very well. So I wanted to kind of go through it and just let you know what those things are. Now, if you're a user access administrator, you will have this administrator button here. If not, then that means that you don't have that role. And then we have the search, and actually you guys can search other organizations and other organization grants that are approved. Now, you can't see a grant in another organization that is not that it's still being worked on. It hasn't reached its final approval, but you can go in there and look at other organizations. And one of the reasons you might want to do that is to look at their address book, and you can see the list of users in that organization and their email addresses. So if you've got a question, if you're a Title III person in one area and you want to talk to a Title III person in another district or several districts, this is one way that you can go in there and find those people. Your inbox is really a record of all the system emails that have been sent to you and from you in the system. These include notifications. You might want to, if you change a status on something, you might want to know who that is going to. You can go into your inbox and you can see those, all the system emails, the print emails that sometimes, I'm the first to agree that sometimes they get lost, or I don't know where they go, but you can go into your inbox and see if you've gotten your any print notifications in there. Funding, of course, all of you all know that you can access your grant applications, and then I think we have 13 districts that are actually using the planning tool right now. But actually any district has access to it and can use it. But the planning goes to both the implementation plan for the district, and then your school plans can be loaded in there as well. The LEA Document Library, I don't think you all use that very much, but it's something that you might want to start thinking about. It's a way for a district to upload specific documentation. So let's just say that you have a Title I report or something that needs to be uploaded now, and it's in the timing of it's not necessarily goes with Title I. We can create a document library, that document in the document library, and assign it to specific districts so that you can upload that documentation at any time, and only your district can see it. No other district can see it. So just the state, the SEA, and the district can see that documentation. And of course, the address book, that's a list of all the users with LEA and SEA roles in your district. And I'm going to show you how that is very useful, a very useful tool in just a few minutes. And of course, you have your SCDE resources, which is kind of your library of training, programs, guidance, forms, etc. And then the request help. And I do, on rare occasions, I'll get something direct, but if you use the request help button, if you need help, it's much better to use that button than to email me directly from the districts, because I get a lot of emails and I don't want to lose your help request in all those emails. Whereas when you use this request help button, it goes straight into our help desk system, and if I don't happen to be in the office that day, somebody else will pick it up and respond to you. And again, the inbox, again, I'm showing you here. This is where we have that archive of emails. The address book will show you all of the people that are in your district and their roles. And actually, if you click on their name, you'll get a little box that pops up, and you can actually launch an email by clicking on this address book. The email address in that little box will launch an email to your system. Roles and notifications, and again, I'm just, you can have more than one role, and more than one person can have the same role. And again, to add or modify your roles, contact your district's user access administrator. And this is you can always go to the address book, and the list of user access administrators is in that address book for your district. Also, one of the things that we've done new in the last few months is when you get ready to change a status on the sections page, if you roll your mouse over that link, it'll display all of the users by name and by role that have permission to change that status. And of course, your emails are always sent to the next approvers, and you can view them in the inbox. So I'm going to pop over here and actually show you what we're talking about here. So if I go into this inbox, I've got the administrator, the search, and then I go into the inbox. I can click on my email message out, messages going in and out. And of course, up here you can do it from the last 7 days. You could go back 8 to 14 days, or you can actually go all the way back and see who they are. And by clicking on those roles, the name there, it'll tell you who's getting it, and it'll give you the message, the actual text of the message. So it's very helpful if you think any of your emails have gotten lost, or if you're not sure whether the next person in line got a notification. This email message archive the inbox is really, really good. I'm going to skip over planning and funding for right now. Grant summary is probably not as useful. It's more useful to you guys. It's more useful to those in our system where we also handle the fiscal part of it, which means the reimbursement request, and we could keep track of the money that's spent from the grants. Again, the LEA Document Library. And I'm in the test system, so it's going to go a little slow. Actually, you can keep this by years. And actually, we've got Title I Part D is actually uploading their counts here. I don't think they've uploaded here, but this is a place where they upload those counts, which take place in October, and they're uploaded separately from the funding application. So this might be a way that you at the state and at the district might come up with some ideas of this would be a good place to store this stuff. And the benefits of it is just like your funding application, it's always available. You can get to it online, and you can go back as many years as you need. You don't have to go searching around somewhere to try to find things. Your address book, again, is a list of all of the local contacts and also the state contacts. If you just want to see the people in your district and what roles they have, you can click on that little link up here. So you can see that Gary is the superintendent here. Then Skip, it has all of these roles. So if you're not sure who has certain roles in your organization, you can go here in the address book and use that. And again, like if I wanted to, let's see, I've got Jewel on here somewhere. Jewel, I know you're here, Jewel. I'll just pick on Jennifer. So if I wanted to send an email to Jennifer, I could click on her name and just click on that email address, and it would pop up an email message in my Outlook just straight to her. So it's a real convenient way to get in touch with people without having to look things up. And of course, we've got our SCDE resources. And then the help for current page. You all aren't using this very much, but this is something in the future that you might want to think about. It is a way that if I'm on a certain page in a funding application, I can put information, or the state can put information in there that on how to use that page or guidance for that page or whatever. And again, we're not using it right now, the help for current page, but this is something the SEA, the state might want to think about using. Now the funding, I'm just going to stay in here and kind of go along because I think that would probably be better than looking at these PowerPoint slides at this point. Your funding applications, we did this at the original training, but I think a lot of people forget it. Again, you can go back as many years as you want. And one of the things too that you can do, by default, we're just having the active application, the one that's being worked on right then or that's been approved. But if you want to look at all versions, let's go back to 2021. And if you want to look at all versions of an application, you can click on this drop-down box and say all approved applications. And when we do that, you'll see now that Title I had their original application, and then here's revision 1. And you can go back and look at that original application and see what it looked like. Then let's go back to, let me go back to our slides here now. And we've done our funding applications. The sections page, I'm going to go over again. I think a lot of people still get a little bit confused about it. So I'm going to go in here. Actually, I've got some things loaded here for 2022. I just loaded some up for Title I just so we'd have something to look at here. So there's a couple of things here. Again, you have your page links, and a lot of times I'll get calls and there's, they have errors, but they're not really sure where to go look for those errors. This validation column right here, I think it's generally helpful to just grab this messages at the all on this all line, because that will show you all of the messages. And once again, if they are red errors, those have to be resolved. Now, if you've got a warning, a gray warning, Those don't have to be resolved, but they just kind of alert you to double check that. If you click on the review in front of an error message, it will take you to that page where you need to make those corrections. And it says I've got some required contacts here, so I'm going to put those in. Just put some, there we go. And then go back to my sections page. So again, this is a real helpful way to kind of double check before you submit your application. The print, I get a lot of questions on that. You can print the whole item here, but most of the time you might just want to print certain pages. So if you click on that box, it's what I call the cafeteria style printing. So I just might want to, click these. I don't want the checklist. I don't want this other stuff. Or maybe I don't want any at all, and I just maybe want a particular page. I might want my school eligibility page and my allocation to serve schools page. So I can pick and choose which ones to print. When I click on print, I think there's a message here that you might want to pay attention to. So if the print job is created within 30 seconds, it's going to pop up automatically. You don't have to do anything, and it'll pop up as a PDF file. You can download it to your machine, or you can print it out from there. If it takes longer than 30 seconds, the system is going to come back to you, and it says here it's going to send you an email to this address, and when you get that email, you can open it up. But I'm here to tell you, half the time people don't get the email. I don't know what it is about it, but I don't know whether it goes into a junk folder or what it is. Most of the time they don't get it. But if you just go up to your, you printed out something, you haven't got the email, just go in and check your SCDE resources, because a print job, I don't have one here. If there's a print job that's finished, it will be at the top here. So even if you don't get the email on a print job, go down to your SCDE resources, and then your print job should be up there at the top. I'm going to go back into the sections page. Another thing that that a lot of people don't realize that we have is the change log. Now you have a history log, and the history log is just a record of the status changes and comments. The change log is a little bit different. The change log, and I'm actually going to go back here to I'm going to go back to a previous one to kind of to have a better feel for what it looks like. So if I go back in here, and I'm going to pull up Title 1 here. So if I go in here and I view my change log, what it's going to let me do is go back to a certain status changed. So this is especially helpful where, like, if it gets returned not approved, you can go back and look at the changes. So I'm going to do one in here. I'm going to go back to see what happened when they sent it back. So the change log will show you every single change that happens in an application. It tells you what page it happened on, whether something was deleted or updated, what exactly that change was, who did it, and the date that happened. This is also helpful if you've got more than one person working on an application. You can kind of see who did what in there. But this is really helpful if an application gets returned to you and you've made changes and you want to make sure that you've made all the changes that you need to or that you were requested to make. You can go and look at this change log and see all of anything that has been deleted, added, or edited. It's really a very, very useful tool. Let me see. The uploading of documents. I think most people are pretty savvy about uploading documents. You'll have, if it has a template, it'll be right here. If it doesn't, if there's no template, in other words, you can just upload anything you want. There won't be a template available. It'll say NA. You can upload as many, in general, you can upload as many documents as you need. You can also delete them. Maybe you uploaded the wrong document. You can either update it or you can delete it. So uploading documents, I have had some questions about how many you could upload, and generally the answer is as many as you need to, and then you can change them and delete them. The save and go to button is something that I preach and preach and preach on when we have our original training, and I think by now most of you all know that you have to use the save and go to button to save your work and move to other pages. One of the tips that I try to give to people is to pay attention to this save and go to current page. You know, you've got somebody that walks into your office, or you take a phone call, or you need to take a break, whatever. By clicking on save and go to current page, it's like hitting that Control S for Microsoft Word. You know, it saves what's on that page, but it lets you keep working. I know we've had some inclement weather and some testy internet connections sometime. If you're worried about that and you want to, you know, work a little bit and save every so often, you can use that save and go to current page, and that's a good way to just make sure you're saving all of your work. I want to go into the budget as well. Let me get back over here because I want to, but first of all, I've had a lot of people tell us that our indirect cost formula is wrong. And one of the things that you need to think about is that when you're creating a budget, and you're creating these budget details, part of the money of your allocation is the indirect cost. And you can't take an indirect cost on the indirect cost item. So the formula that we use is to get your maximum indirect cost is the allocation. Actually, it's the allocation minus any excludable cost, which you know, you guys really don't have any that I know of. So it's your allocation minus the allocation divided by 1 point and then your indirect rate cost. So that you might want to take note that this is actually the way we calculate your maximum indirect cost. And by doing it this way, we take into account that we know that part of your budget is going to be that indirect cost. We're doing filtering now. I don't know how many of you are doing this, but this is a good way to find your missing tags. It's a good way to validate your school allocations and your school budgets in that Title I. And it's also a good way to validate that LEA set aside. I also want to talk about this last quarter because I know that's caused a lot of heartache for a lot of people lately, and we're going to talk about that as well. And I want to also show you some changes that we're going to be having in the 2022 grant that'll make things easier. So I've got Abbeville. I guess that's the hazard of being the first district in the list. You always get picked on. So I've gone in and I've made I've filled out, you know, my school eligibility. I've used the PIP, the pupils in poverty number here, and I put some numbers in. And I know that we want to have some. I'm in 2021. Sorry, let me get back over to 2022. Funding applications. Now then, here we go. So I've added some numbers in here, and though I know Abbeville doesn't have any private schools, and I threw some private school numbers in there to kind of show you how the private school works. And of course, our next page is your data collection methods. And then our next page is the private school. We had a problem last year and that we ran into in the fact that we couldn't separate out the indirect cost that was being taken on the private schools. And we had this, in order to do it, we had this really bizarre validation that we had to kind of backdoor in, and it tripped up a lot of people on the LEA set-asides page through some weird messages about private schools, even though you didn't have a private school. We fixed that in 2022. So I filled out some stuff here. One of the things that we've fixed is that when you put in your low income private school students, we allow you to enter how much you're going to be taking in your indirect cost. So if you're not going to take any indirect cost, you leave those at zero. But if you are taking an indirect cost, you're taking in the maximum that can be taken for that school. You'll do that on this page. And then down here at the bottom, this is your private school share. But that if that private school share, $181.70 of it needs to be coded to object code 430. That's the indirect cost. So you'll put 181.70 in that will go in there. Then your private school allocation, the amount that you're going to code to 370, is actually your private share minus whatever indirect cost you're taking. So this will solve that whole problem of that funky little validation that popped up about private schools and when you didn't even have any private schools. So that's the way that's going to work in the 2020 application. Then on the next page, your LEA set-asides page is just going to bring over your private school allocation. It's not going to bring over the indirect cost, just the private school allocation, that part that's going to go to that code 370. Then you will enter your entire amount, your indirect cost, entire amount for 430. So I'm going to have to jump over here to my budget. And I've already put that in here. I put it in the wrong pew here. So I'm going to edit this. And it doesn't go in 370. It's going to go into 430. I'm going to update that. So I'm going to take this entire amount right here, which is my indirect cost amount. I'm going to go back to my LEA set-asides page and put that in here. So now I've got the private school share, and I've got the entire indirect cost amount for both my private and public schools. Now, when we come down here and we talk about the Title I, parent and family engagement. Well, there's been some confusion on this as well. This information in these lines right here is just really informational. It's letting you know what your 1% is And that, and it's making you aware that 90% must be distributed to the schools, but there's really no validation on these two numbers right here. In South Carolina, most of the districts that I've seen push that parent and family engagement out to the schools. So, and that is taken accounted for in your budget code 188. So if one of your schools has a parent and family engagement, you go to your budget, you say this budget detail is for XYZ school, and it's code 188 for parent and family engagement. So the system is going to look at all budget code 188s that are for schools, and it's going to total it right here. Then it's going to take the amount that you have at the district level. This is money that's not pushed down to the school. It's being used up there at the district, and you're going to put that in here. And again, this is just, I'm just going to put a number in here. This is what's being attributed to the district, not at a school. So the system then will add what you budgeted at the school level and what you budgeted at the district level, and make sure that you've got your 1% if you're over, if you've got over 500,000 in Title 1. So really, the system is going to take care of making sure that you have your 1%. What you guys need to know is that what goes here is only the piece that is attributed to the district, not to the schools, to the district. Now, one of the other things that since we're doing, since we've started doing filtering, and that allows us to look at budget details a little bit more closely. In the beginning, you all were putting in figures here. I'm going to put in $5,000 here. You all were putting in all the details for this amount right here. That is no longer necessary. You can just put in here if you want, see budget details. And I'm going to put some numbers, the same thing down here. Now, Jewel, am I saying this right?
I'll need you to repeat that, Millie. I was trying to answer some of the questions in the chat.
So on your LEA set-asides page, or previously in previous years, you've put all of the details, what that money was for right here. But since we can do filtering now, it's no longer necessary for you to put all of the details here. And I'm going to show you how that happens in just a few minutes. And then maybe you'll feel more comfortable answering it. But you don't have to put all of the details here because...
Well, I'll just interject here for a moment. It is the expectation to use this as a cover sheet, if you will, where they give us some detail about what is happening. We don't need every detail to show here, but we will need greater detail, obviously, in the budget details.
So you might put in something like administrative secretary.
Yes.
And you really don't even have to have the amounts at this point, because we're going to see the amounts in the budget. Is that right?
Yes, but we know that these dollar amounts we're looking for it to match, how much the set-asides are to the budget. But yes, we're not looking, if they have multiple people assigned to the administrative set-aside, I don't necessarily need to see on this page every dollar assigned to that administrative secretary's position and every dollar assigned to the coordinator's position and so forth. But we do expect to see that great detail in the budget narrative.
One of the things that, I don't know if many of you all have used this, but most of our pages have copy previous fiscal year details. And I'm going to show you how that works. So if I copy this from the previous year, I'll get a screen and you'll see there's some green boxes and there's some red boxes. Red boxes means, oh, you had something here and I'm overwriting it. I've overwritten it. If it's a green box, it means, okay, you didn't have anything here. I'm just bringing forward, what you had last year. You can either keep your changes, and actually I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to keep those, and that will bring it forward. Now, again, that's going to bring all that, you might not want to do it on this particular page because it's going to bring all those details over. I do want to get this change back, though. So, using that, bringing that forward is really helpful. Now, again, it's a double-edged sword. You can copy it forward, but you sure don't want to get caught, just copying the same thing from year to year, and they know that you really haven't been paying attention to your budget. But so that's what that's the biggest change here is you don't have to put all of this details in here. Just kind of a general high level up here, because I'm going to take you over to the budget now and show you why that's possible. And for the moment, I'm going to take this. Notice that I don't have anything. I can have upload and download. But I'm going to get rid of this one right here. And the reason I'm doing that is to show you that when you come to your budget page and you have not entered any budget details yet, you'll have this copy 2021 budget detail, and that will bring over all the budget details from your previous year. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, you've got some costs that are, items that are going to be the same from year to year. You might not change it that much, but it does bring that over. Now, obviously, very seldom are you going to have the exact allocation from one year to the next. I don't know that I've ever seen that happen. But you're going to have to go in here and adjust it. Now, the reason I wanted to do that is to kind of show you what we're talking about in terms of looking at your school's budget and doing the filtering to make your LEA work. Right now, I'm going to just show all of your budget details. So I've got 84 out of 84. And again, it doesn't. It's not going to happen on your small districts, but on large districts, it's actually going to be paginated, which means that if I wanted to see 100 on one page, I could. I'm going to go down to 50 on a page. Yeah, here we go. So now I'm only down to 2 pages because I'm showing 50 on a page. So you can adjust that. Oh, I didn't mean to go back. Let's go back here. But one of the things that you can do, in South Carolina, you all have to budget to the school to match that PPA page. And one way you can do that is, first of all, you want to select all of your details, all of your function codes, and it's being a little slow on me right now. There we go. And then select your school. I'm going to deselect all, and I just want to see what I've got coded to Cherokee Trail Elementary. So if I check Cherokee Trail Elementary, it's going to show me everything that was there for that school. And down here at the bottom, the total for your filtered budget details, which in this case is Cherokee School. The total for that, for your filtered budget details is 82,919. You can go back to your allocations to serve schools page, look at what you're supposed to have allocated for Cherokee, and then you can see whether or not you're off in any way, shape, or form. So that's a really good way to double check your school level budgets. Now, to check your LEA set aside page, what you want to do is just select the school district. And this should match your required set-asides and your optional set-asides that you have on that LEA set-aside page. Now, the other thing, once you're here, you'll notice that you have a LEA set-asides tag group. So if I wanted to go up here and see what, I'm going to look for my tags now. And we scroll down here because we've got several tag groups. But if I wanted to just see what was for, this is going to take a little bit of time here. Hang on here. Now, here we go. So if I just wanted to see the details for my homeless, what I've got for homeless, I have 12 items. Did I have that right? I don't think I did. I must have been missing a tag here. It should just be other, should be homeless. I think that's not working quite right. I'm going to have to get that fixed. But what I would have expected to happen, my filter is not working correctly on this right now, but when we get it fixed, what would happen is that only the items that were for homeless would show up here. And down here, the amount that shows up for when you filter on homeless should match what is on that LEA set-asides page. So then the state can go in here and actually, this is one of the reasons you don't need to put all those details there. Because the state can go in now and filter on a particular LEA set-aside section, they're going to know exactly what's included in that amount. Does that make sense to everybody? It's really hard to see nodding heads and shaking heads when you're sitting this far away from everybody. But the filtering is a really, really good tool. I think maybe if I do I'm going to have to go in there and make sure there's something not working quite right there. And be assured that this is in 2022, so we haven't got all the bugs worked out of it yet. But the filtering, by tags, by LEA, by location, and then going down and looking at the amounts for the filtered budget details, you can very easily line up your allocations for your schools. You can very easily line up all of those different categories that are on the LEA set-asides page. And that's why we don't need to have all of those details in there. There is also a way, and I've had this happen. I know it's kind of hard. If you've got a whole lot, every now and then you'll get an error message that says, I'm going to LEA set asides. That's going to be a problem here. So every now and then you'll get one that says, oh, you missed a tag group. You've got a required tag. If you select just the, and again, it's a little bit slow. I'm going to deselect all here. That'll be faster. If you just go in and say, just show me ones where no tags have been selected, that will bring back those tags. Hold on just a minute, and I'm going to get rid of a barking dog. The hazards of working from home. So that's how you would find those no tag, anything with no tags. Any questions, or Jewel, are there any questions that I need to answer?
Millie, we have quite a few questions in the chat, and hopefully we can get through them all in the next few minutes before we have to sign off. Let's see, I'll go back. It says, so do we have to create a budget item for indirect costs? And this is referencing what she would be doing for Title II.
Mm-hmm. So in Title II, I don't think the indirect cost, I focused on Title I because we have to use that indirect cost in creating the school allocations. I don't think it has that same importance in the other grants. Is that right, Jewel?
Yeah, I think it's just, I think it's a little different with how we estimate the cost there. But we can certainly go back in and provide Candace with more information at a later date.
Right. The formula that we use, that allocation minus the allocation divided by 1, and I will post that, by the way. That formula that we use for indirect cost is used for every grant, not just Title I. So that indirect cost formula is there for everyone.
Okay. And then if you don't mind, Millie, will you go back? I believe Leemma had a question on how to filter. And Leemma, if you can type into the chat which filter option you were talking about, we can make sure that she is directing her presentation to that. Okay, she says she's good. She thought it was something different.
Oh, okay.
And then let's see, we had some questions about indirect cost rate, which is more on my side of the table with looking at some things. And one of the questions, of course, was, will we know our indirect cost rate by June 30th? And I cannot guarantee that because our office is not made aware of the negotiated indirect cost rates until every single district has an agreed upon cost rate. So it just depends, ladies and gentlemen, if everyone agrees early on into the game, we'll get that information sooner rather than later. And then, of course, there was questions about the indirect cost rate and how it is in the system with, from year to year, our indirect cost rate changes. We don't change the indirect cost rate on a grant cycle. We leave it the same, and, it's which of the children do you choose with this, quite honestly. For some districts, it works out great. If, there's a change, but for some districts it won't be. And what we've noticed, because we've tried to go in and adjust when we've had to give out additional allocations. We've noticed that the indirect cost rate, when we go in and change it, causes more negative problems for some districts because they're not allowed to take as much as they did in the previous year, and they've already spent that money. And so how do you account for that if all of it's spent? So we just leave the indirect cost rate the same for that 27-month period. So unfortunately, some of you who get a bump and can take more, you're not able to take more in that particular grant cycle, or you're leaving some money on the table that you could have possibly taken. I'm sorry. That's just the agreement we've come up with, just to leave it as is for one grant cycle, one full grant cycle. And then the other question with indirect cost rate was, I think I got all of them. We do change, of course, your indirect cost rate from preliminary to final when we determine what your final allocation is.
I did have one more thing that I forgot to cover, and it's probably the thing that I've gotten the most question on, and that's that. I don't know what you all call it. It's the last quarter of a grant life. How do you say that? Where you're allowed to take back money that hasn't been spent by the district.
Yes, so
by the schools.
Yes, by the October 1st deadline we give with Title I, we must provide schools the full 15 months to try to spend as much of the funds as they can. Districts have the discretion after September 30 if they want to take any remaining funds and redistribute those funds, or use it at the district level, that they can do that. So yeah, you might want to show just a little bit about it. We have about 5 minutes left of or so of time, Millie, so I'll give you the floor.
Okay, so actually it's really fairly simple. All through those 15 months, those first 15 months, you're going to be required to, make your allocation for your school match your PPA page. But when you start bringing that money back from the schools to the district, you'll want to go in and update your LEA set-asides page. Now, when you do that, when you start pulling money back into the district, and you want to make sure all of these and use your filtering to make sure everything's right here, by the way things work, you're going to throw off your allocations to serve schools page. And we know this. So in that last quarter, after that September 1, is that right? September 31st. And we turn off that error message on this page and make it a warning. What that means is in that last quarter of a grant, this allocation to serve schools does not have to match what is in your budget. All you need to do is adjust those PPAs to get them as close to whatever's available. You do your step 1, you pull your money back and put it in the LEA set-asides page. You fix that page and you get that, down, how much money am I using in the LEA, at the district level. Then that determines what's going to be available for school allocations. And we know in this last quarter, there's no way to balance that out and make everything work. So just put in a PPAs and make this remaining as close to 0 as you can. And whatever's left over, go back and add it to your LEA set-asides page, and you want to do it down here in these optional ones. because we have validations on the parent and family engagement and the homeless. So anything that you need to add back in over here to make, make everything balanced, add it to one of these optional LEA set-asides. So step one, pull your money back, put it in the LEA set-asides page and get that page right. Then go step two, go to your PPA, your allocations to serve schools page and adjust those PPAs, so that, you can get as close to zero down there and zero money left over as possible. We know those PPAs are not going to match the schools in this last quarter, and you're not going to get an error for it. Then if there's any small change left over at the bottom of that allocations to serve schools page, add it back in to one of the LEA optional set-asides. And that will clear up all those error messages that I get a lot of questions about.
Millie, I want to say thank you for your presentation. I'm sure that as we start putting in new applications for the new year, there are going to be questions, and certainly when we're looking to roll money back up after October 1, there'll be questions. I will like to say to all of you on the call that HMB is quite responsive to any help desk tickets we have. So certainly if you have a problem, make sure you put in a help ticket. She's showing you where to go for that, and she will certainly reach out and assist you.
Yes, a help desk ticket or a call to this number will go into our help desk system. And 90% of the time it's me, but if I happen to be out or on vacation or out sick or something, there is someone there that will answer them as well if we use this system right here. Okay, I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to work with you today.
Thank you so much, Millie. We really do appreciate you joining us today.
All right.
And I'm sure we will be in touch with you soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right.